February 11, 2026, we are live. Welcome back to the Global Financial Reset, Surviving and Thriving the Transition. And joining me today is returning guest Jon Dowling and introducing Brandon Clarke to discuss how to secure a guaranteed income as part of retirement planning. So listen, right now, just get this on the record before we get into the red meat of this broadcast. Anyone listening that is preparing or close to retirement, and certainly those in retirement, you absolutely want to make sure you tune in to the latter part of this broadcast when I bring on Brandon Clarke. All right, quick disclaimer. The information provided by me and my guests in this broadcast is for educational purposes only and is not to be considered as specific investment nor tax or legal advice. I'll get my microphone here. You'll hear me a little bit better. There we go. All right, so let's just get right into the show. Thank you for being here. So much going on, and we're going to jump into all financial related matters on this broadcast. And for all the other global defense war issues that we are taking on, and you know all the issues, be sure to join us at jmcbroadcasting.com. Take a look at our broadcasting schedule for our global defense war and Eyes on Gitmo military panels. All right, Jon Dowling. Jon has been directly involved in the godly global currency reset since 2012. A patriot truther with over 2 years successfully interviewing the best of breed within the financial and geopolitical sector on his podcast, ranging from the likes of Bill Halter, Andy Schectman, Peter Schiff, S.G. Anon, Derek Johnson, David Mahoney, Nicholas Venom, many others, including General Paul Vallely, Tom McInerney, and so forth. Jon has a business background with an associate's in business finance from Fairfield University, as well as a master's in music business management. Next time Jon's on, we're going to feature some of his songs. He is a graduate of Berkeley College. Furthermore, Jon's relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ has led him to this seminal point in history and is his guiding post for life, relationship, finance, and all truth for a dire world in need of the true and living Savior. You'll want to follow Jon Dowling's podcast, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, please welcome back Jon Dowling.
Hey, John Michael. Thanks for having me on again. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for being here. Appreciate you spending time here as well. There's a lot we're going to talk about here, and you can certainly raise any issues that you choose to that may not be sort of in, the questions I may have. But let me begin with this. Bring us up to date, if you will, on the status of the Clarity Act. First, for those that don't, are at first base with us here, begin by defining what the Clarity Act actually is addressing and where it presently stands, as there's been some activity as of recent. And not to load you up with a lot of questions, but part three of that is, beyond that, what does this reveal about crypto moving forward? So what is the Clarity Act? What's the current status of it? And what does that reveal about crypto moving forward?
Sure. So I'll be as succinct as I can. The Clarity Act, in theory, as we talked about last year, John Michael, when I was last on with you as a reprise, the theory is that it will bring transparency to the banking system, that will establish stable coins that will be regulated and will be of use to the public and the banks. It was supposed to be, in theory, a very open and transparent system that has a system of checks and balances and keeps everybody, on task and being above board, right? That's the theory of it in short parlance. The current status is they've been slow walking it. There was talks about delay till April, May. Now all of a sudden you mentioned some great guests that I've had the privilege of having on my podcast, one of which is a good friend of mine now, Rob Cunningham, who last month when I had him on, I asked him, when do you think this is realistically going to get passed? And to his credit, he said probably before March, right at the end of February. So they're now, as of today, the latest status, the talk inside the scuttlebutt of DC is to get it done. I think President Trump said he wants this done before March 1st. He also said, and this may seem separate, but it's actually, as you know, John Michael, everything kind of correlates in one form or fashion. He also wants the tariffs from the Supreme Court decision to be done before the end of the first quarter. So the one thing thing kind of begets the other. So that's the latest status. And then, I'm sorry, what was your third question?
Well, yeah, thank you for that, and let's hope that time frame that John Cunningham his
Wow.
forecast it comes into light because this is so important. And the third part, John, was really just when you look at the totality of what you just framed for us, the tariffs, the
Mhm.
crypto, the transparency, and so forth. Um, what does this reveal about the importance of crypto or crypto in general now and moving forward, like in the landscape? Because 2, 3, 4 years ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation at this level about crypto's role, but yet today we are. So, how do you see its relevance and its importance in the role of crypto now and moving forward?
Yeah. Okay, thank you for bringing me back on task with that. So they're extremely important and relevant. It's part of the new digital financial system, like it or not. It's here to stay. And so, as we
Mhm,
discussed last time, again, and not to be redundant for your audience that remembers it, but for the ones who hadn't heard it, which I think is what you were aiming for, uh, the key is
mhm,
to be on the right cryptos. And so you say, well, how do I do that? Look for cryptos that have utility, that make the blockchain go, that are precious metal or
mhm,
asset pegged, gold and silver, right? That have utility and that have marketing and advertising behind them. Because without that, just like any company, without promotion, they die. So, and that's one of the things I talked to Rob Cunningham about, which coins would fall in that wheelhouse, in his opinion and in
mhm.
mine, not financial advice, just giving you what we see.
Sure.
There's about 8 to 10. They're the usual suspects: XRP, XLM, XDC, what we call affectionately X marks the spot. Then you have Quant,
Mhm,
Algorand, HBAR or Hedera, IOTA. IOTA has been a good performer for me, and,
mhm,
and, and Algorand. I've seen consistent continuity. It's mostly in the green most of the time, even with the instability. And then, I personally, this is one outside, this is a faith based one, Shiba Inu. And the Shiba Inu, because they're going to develop the Shiba verse, which will be a spin off of Ethereum, because Ethereum has sort of held the
mhm,
monopoly where you had to get other coins through the Ethereum network. The gas fees, or basically the commission fees, are pretty expensive depending on what and how much you acquire of a certain coin. So when Shiba is able to break away from that, it's going to give ostensibly a whole new, what they call, you can call what you want, a Shibaverse, a um, a decentralized coin outside the system. You want to be in decentralized coins that
mhm.
you can tangibly
Yes.
hold in a cold wallet.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, very important. And we're getting more and more reports of theft from the scammers on social media. Uh, and I just got a call from someone. I'm not going to mention the person, but an enormous amount of money will never come back to this individual. And so people be careful when you see people in social media saying, message me here, get your QFS wallet, I'll help you out. That's a red alert and a caution. Wouldn't you agree, John?
Yeah, anything about Nasara accounts or QFS, just steer clear of that kind of stuff. Absolutely.
Yeah, and also to use President Trump and his son's expression, it's an old New York thing we always used to say. In all fairness, in all fairness, um, there's a lot of imposters out there pretending to be Charlie Ward, pretending to be Scott McKay, pretending to be some of the well-trafficked, long-standing popular podcasters, Michael Jaco. I mean, they're doing the same thing with me, probably with you too, John. Um, you know, you got to know who's real and who's not. So anytime I see an imposter, you know, um, I try and let the audience know. But anyway, that's a little caution for everyone. Please be careful. You'll know what to do and when to do when that time comes officially from the administration. Um, John, let's talk about a recent gathering of leaders from many countries around the world. There was a meeting, I forget what it was called, held, I believe, in DC, concerning the rare minerals list. And of course, we're thrilled, and for the very first time, silver has been placed at the top of that list. What does that mean for silver? What can you tell us about this gathering and what's really going on?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack, John Michael, in this subject alone. We could do an entire podcast just on this, as you know.
Yes.
Basically, in parlance, what it means is President Trump is basically working to nationalize all the nations, right? So he's setting them free off the Federal Reserve note, pulling that away while he prepares. He's got two parallel systems, right? So he's playing within the
Hmm.
confines of the private central Western central bank system now, but he's pulling away from that, and this is another initiative towards doing that. So it's very exciting for not just the U.S. but more importantly for the totality of the world in terms of freeing up and nationalizing. We all saw what happened in Venezuela. Notice he didn't mention that; he just did it. With President Trump, I've noticed a
Hmm.
pattern. It's not what he says; it's what he doesn't say. When he doesn't talk about it and he just does it errantly, that's when
Hmm.
stuff is going to
Yes.
happen. And the more he talks about warning, 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 it typically doesn't come to pass because it's a misdirect. This, on the other hand, is a
Yes.
different animal. This is very exciting for precious metals in general, which is fueling the godly global reset or global currency reset. Right? It's the foundational level that makes it all go. So it has huge implications for precious metals, for the foreign currencies, for the sovereignty and nationalization of all the global nations. And there's a gentleman that I've studied quite a bit, and I've been very blessed to. God has been gracious to put amazing, well-heeled financial experts, subject matter experts, on my path the last several years, as you know. One of the gentlemen I am keen to talk to, but I've studied him, is a gentleman you probably know, Ray Dalio. And he has said very clearly and presently that in the next 18 to 24 months, he's a billionaire, by the way, silver will be parallel with gold. Well, President Trump is going to basically let, excuse me, gold and silver run up to a certain level. We talked about this last time, again, with a reprise.
Hmm.
Never hurts. And so he's going to let gold and silver run up to a certain level. Once he achieves whatever that number is, and they have a algorithm that tells him, hey, this is the right number to do it, he's going to revalue gold to about 20 to 25,000, and silver is going to run right up with it. If you look at the U.S. debt clock, which pulls its actual numbers from true factual data from the government, not the stuff that they report to the people, but the real data, it's over $1,200. Easily could go in the next couple years to $20,000. I know that seems like a stretch for a lot of people, but nobody ever thought it would get past $50, and here we sit. Uh, Not a week and a half ago, where it was at 115, 120. A lot of people, John Michael, are looking at the futures markets, but in actuality, what they should be looking at is the Shanghai Metals Exchange, which is still averaging about 120, 30, 120 to $130. When you factor in the spot, you have to pay the miner's price, and then you have to pay the commission to the broker as well, whoever that might be that you're buying it, whether it's a coin dealer or an actual company that has a vault and a mine, what have you. Excuse me. So it has huge implications for silver. I do agree they're not going to let it go beyond a certain point, and then it's just gonna continue to follow gold and go up and up and up and up because of the suppression, the manufacturing, AI, robotics associated with it. It's in everything that we use: computer screens, chips in cars, your phones, your iPad, you name it. It's in everything that we use on a daily basis. Even we can even ingest it, colloidal silver and the like. So the event itself was very telling of where metals are going to go in the short and long term.
Thank you. You unpacked a lot there. Took a few notes to follow up to discuss a bit. The Board of Peace came to my mind. A few moments ago, you spoke about how in the meeting that took place concerning the minerals list and so forth, how everything kind of intertwines. The tariffs are, it's all kind of one big movement with the little pieces, and they all connect up. And that brings me to the Board of Peace. Last I understood, there were 80 countries, $1 billion each. They put down and joined this Board of Peace. Um, I would imagine, as you were alluding to before, how each the tariff leads to this, leads to that. It all connects towards one ultimate goal. You talked about the nationalization of nations. Um, What's your thought on the Board of Peace down the line in terms of the currency? Because we know the great currency shift is taking place. We know the dollar's getting plummeted down for now, and so forth. But you talked about parallel economies. What's your thoughts on the Board of Peace? Wouldn't to me, it would seem that a lot of those countries would probably be coming aboard in the new financial system that is being developed right now. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, ultimately, John Michael, they're going to have to come on board just alone on the terms of Nasara and Jassara. That's an inevitability. people going back to their home countries. They want to go back. We want them to go back, be safe and prosperous, cash out on their own
Mhm.
pensions that are in their respective countries. But I'm glad you brought this up because it's very hard for me to discuss this subject matter, John Michael, and I would be remiss if I didn't discuss the importance of the not just the board of peace, but isolating Iraq and Iran specifically, right? We see a lot of discussion. President Trump had Bibi Netanyahu. We don't know which version that is. Another story for another day. In the White House today, and
Yes.
they didn't reach a formal deal. We believe on our team, on our side, that what's really going on, you got to look at what's going on behind the scenes, the moves and counter moves, as you're well aware. We believe that ultimately President Trump and whoever this BB is said, look, you're not doing a darn thing about Iran, so we're going to go ahead and bomb them. And President Trump gave him the old wink, green eye, because he's not going to want to have a war attack on his record. He's consistently touted that he's the president of peace and not banker wars. Without saying banker wars ostensibly, we know on the inside that's what that really means. So we're watching for, as you'll recall, last June, there was an attack on the Bashar nuclear facilities of Iran. The late, great Kim Clement talked about this ad nauseum, and rightly so. He prophesied it, and it came to pass in part last year. But the media is going to focus on Israel, the deep state of Israel, not the nation itself, the good people. To clarify that, is going to focus and key in on Israel as attacking the power plants as, quote, the grave mistake. You heard President Trump say, I made a grave mistake with the Fed chair. So they're using, the countries copy each other. So they're using the same predictive programming language, if you like. And so we're watching for an attack from Israel or Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has drones. They have isolated their perimeters. They put up travel restrictions within the country last month. They could easily do it and blame it on Israel. Regardless, Israel will be saved for last, will take the fall, and that will free up the people, the good people of Iraq, Iran, the Christians that are in those respective nations. We also want to be watching for Mark Savaya. He's currently the U.S. envoy to Iraq under President Trump, as you know, but he's beloved by the people. He's fairly young, I think in his 30s. He is a Chaldean Christian, and he's Iraqi native. The next prime minister has to be a true Iraqi. Now, what we have is Maliki. We know that goon, Obama leftover, Sotero leftover, who stonewalled the reset from happening 15, 16 years ago. There's always two sides to a coin, good and bad. What he did was terrible, but what he also did benefits us because if you think about it, if he didn't do that, we're not in this reset right now. We would all be closed out of this and we wouldn't be able to have this conversation. This would have exchanged years ago if he didn't do what he did. So God has used that situation for the maximum amount of his people to prosper. So that's, God will always take what was meant for harm, use it for good, Genesis 50:20. So you have Maliki in there saying, I'm not going to stand down. I'm going to try to take over prime minister. You have our military who left the embassies, went to the border. That's important. Why did they go to the border? What happens at the border? Trade and commerce and business. So they secure the borders for Iraq to come back to the international stage. Now, some of those troops, we believe, will be pulled, whether it's, the Marines or Navy SEALs or what have you. Once Maliki tries to take over, we have Abadi, Haider al-Abadi, who is an Iranian proxy. He was the second prime minister in the nothing, 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 something per the late great Kim Clement. He has vowed that he made a mistake of not revaluing the currency when he had his chance as prime minister. He wants a second act. He wants a second chance, not so much to be prime minister, but to be in the streets with the people, to get them to the green zone. Half of the Iraqi dinars are already cut off, along with the Straits of Hormuz are squeezing the oil supply. You see all of our oil tankers are going out into the Middle East, and they're doing a squeeze play. So when we get to the point, John Michael, where we see all of the dinars cut off, most of the oil cut off, which has been their lifeline to this point, and we see Maliki come center stage, we see the Iraqi citizens get upset enough to get off their duff and go take action in the green zone with Abadi there. That's going to be some of the key codes, coupled with what I mentioned before, the attack on the power plants, that Israel will take the scapegoat, and that will lead from the grave mistake to the grave surrender for the reset. So the peace deal will be in place for a few years, but ultimately Iran will reemerge in the next 3 years. That's why they're cozying up to their buddies with Russia, with BRICS, because it's all in an effort to amalgamate with Russia and China to power up Iran again, unfortunately, to retake over that region of the Middle East. So there will be a peace while President Trump is in power for at least the next 3, hopefully 4 years, and then we'll have to see what transpires from that.
Wow, very volatile situation to say the least, and a very important piece on the geopolitical shuffle that's taking place right now. And to our audience, everyone that's still hung up on, you know, where the arrests and when will the EBS happen, just as far as that goes, just watch the show, folks. This this is big. This is a complete restructure of how the world works from top to bottom. And some things will happen quickly. Some things will take a little longer. Some things will go on for years, and some things for decades if you really play it out. So, but that's an interesting scenario. There's obviously something everybody's going to know about and be watching. I want to pedal back a bit to the price points of silver and gold that you talked about. I heard, I'm aware of the president stating the revaluing gold would be at about 20,000, which you use, but I didn't know. Just for clarification, you're saying it's going to pair up with silver. Silver at some point as this progresses will be at 20,000 as well. Silver.
I believe so because it's going to go 1 to 1. That's also what Ray Dalio is espousing, and he's had his hand on the switch for quite some time. And he's not alone. Michael Oliver has been talking about the potentiality of them at some point leveling up. So there's a number of, again, subject matter experts. But again, if you think about the currencies going 1 to 1, it would make sense. Gold and silver is running parallel, right? Maybe not in price points, but they're running up, and so it would make sense to level up.
Right.
So
Yeah.
too will the currencies with the Rap Dinar and the Vietnamese Dong, which are also powered in part by gold and silver.
hmm Wow, incredible. Now before I get into a different subject, I always like my guests to weigh in on this. And of course, it's the central bank, which is imploding upon itself due to the naked shorts and the paper trade and the lack of silver available, and getting finally on the wrong side of the trade instead of screwing us on the wrong side of the trade that they've been doing for decades, suppressing the price of both gold and silver. That
Right.
dynamic has changed. How do you see that playing out? It's my understanding that come through March, which is just weeks away, but through the month of March, they have a lot more contracts coming due. Is it going to be the end of the line of their ability to do what they did recently, taking silver from 120 down to 80, taking gold from 56 to 46? Now, of course, it's slowly coming back. I checked this morning. I'm in Thailand, but your close of business, gold was at about 5,000 plus, and silver was $82. So it hasn't collapsed, and it's not going to. But what's your take on the runway left? This is the question. Runway left for the central bank, whose back is up against the wall. How much longer are they going to be able to significantly manipulate the price as they just did recently? What's your
Not
thoughts
much
on that?
longer. Not much longer, John Michael. I don't know the exact date, but we have a excuse me. Again, this is going to be a long answer, but there's a lot of stuff at play.
Mhm.
So just bear with me. So Basel
Sure.
3 is kicked in once again as of Monday. You have a bank about 10 days ago. I was talking with our sponsor, Colin Plume of Noble Gold, was talking about this. 10 or 12 days ago, one of the major banks on the Chicago Mercantile Exchange went under. So it wasn't a bail-in; it was just a fallout, right? There was a bank failure, and they dropped
hmm
291 million ounces onto the market. To put that into context, that roughly accounts, if my math is right, somewhere in the neighborhood of 26 to 28% of the total silver that JP Morgan currently holds is 970 million ounces. Now, I know President Trump has gone in there, he's dealt with Jamie Dimon, and he's fleeced that out with silver certificates. And that's going to have a systemic effect on this discussion piece. I don't think they're going to be able to do it too much longer because, again, the speculators are doing backwardization where they're calling in the shorts to get real
Yes.
physical metals. COMEX and LBMA are already screwed. They can't cover it. So unless you
Yep.
are in a relationship with a company that has a mine and a vault, this is even effectuating the pawn shops. A lot of pawn shops are going under because they can't pay people the true value of the metals. People would buy it at a certain amount, like 30
Right.
bucks,
Right.
whatever, 20 bucks, say, oh, now it's 100. I want 100. They can't do it. They can't do it. Even if they
Right.
have it on supply, they can't meet the demands of the price points the way that the major players do. So this is creating a massive squeeze play, which is hurting the banks big time. I don't know if most people know this, but we found this out years ago, John Michael. For every dollar that an ounce of silver goes up, that shorts the banks $1 billion on their balance sheets. It really crushes them. So people keep buying metals. And on that point, I'd like to point
You
something out we
bet.
talked about offline, John Michael, if I may, because you had said if I had anything pertinent to share it, and I think this is the perfect time to
Mhm.
share it. We just found out this morning the nation of Peru now owns one of the largest supplies of metals, 144,000 metric tons, which equates to 22% of the world's global silver supply. That's a really significant happening, which goes back to the rare earth minerals discussion we had moments ago as these countries are breaking away. You had Japan, who's quietly, they're running the printing machine. They call it quantitative easing. That's just a fancy term for print, print, print. US has been doing it.
We're
Other
familiar
nations
with
are
it.
doing it. Right. What does this do? This does two things. It kills the old Fed Reserve central bank system because it devalues the currency or currencies in this instance. It creates liquidity that these nations can use. And what are they going to do? They're going to buy gold and silver with it so they can back their currencies with something real, assets in the ground. And we also refer to them, or Bill Holter's referred to them rightly, as real time settlements. This is how BRICS was born because these nations don't want to deal in speculative crap and paper. They don't want the Federal Reserve. They don't want a promissory IOU. We don't even want it. See, people are seeing
That's
the
right.
price explosions at the gas stations or at the grocery stores, moreover, right? And they're going, well, wait a minute, gas is more expensive, food is more expensive. No, they can provide you the supply fine right now, but people are misconstruing what's happening. It's not so much that the prices of food are going up, it's that the value of the currency, the dollar, is going down. So it's costing you more pieces of paper to buy that same item. You're not getting better quality or quantity, creates the illusion and the trickery the central bank had in mind back in 1912 during the Great Taking with the six Rothschilds and Rockefellers, who created that system to trick us into thinking, oh, more paper equals more value. No, it's just like this. Like if you were working at an office and you're making a copy of a document, whatever, every subsequent copy you make, the image quality goes down and down and down. If that's true for a document, why would that not be true for the financial paper that we're holding, which is basically toilet paper at this point? You have 3,000% inflation with a dollar that has 98 to 99% drop in value. So it's worthless. And it's effectuating and showing itself, as I mentioned, in places like gas stations, grocery stores, car washes, memberships for, as an example, Costco, things like that start to go up and up and up. You see emails of companies saying we're changing our terms, we're changing our price structure. You see it everywhere. Athletes, well, they're overpaid to begin with, but now you're seeing like ridiculous 400, $500 million contracts. It's because it costs more paper money to pay those contracts than it did 3, 5, 10 years ago because you have a dead dollar. That's how you know we're at the end of the life cycle of the old system. So what President Trump is doing, as I said, he's paralleling in the old system. He's phasing it out, right? And hopefully he wins this tariff situation from the tariff act from the Supreme Court, which has no cause to deny it because every previous president had access to it. But all of a sudden he doesn't. You can't create double standards like that, not lawfully. So they should, by all rights, hopefully, root in his favor and rule in his favor. And so as a result, he'll be able to continue to use those tariffs while he continues to bring gold and silver up and up and up to kill the old dollar. You start having the currency resets. You have a lot of moving pieces, as you alluded to, at one time. But this is how you know you're seeing the death of the old system and the birth of the new.
To kill the old dollar. I love that. And that's exactly what's happening. And that's exactly what the doctor ordered. And those that don't understand why the president seems so, oh, it's okay, not worried about it. Well, they know what they're doing. They're collapsing the Federal Reserve note, Federal Reserve private bank note, debt two, no money, just debt. He's allowing that to collapse upon
Mm-hmm.
itself while all the other mechanics are happening, as you stated, with the naked shorts and so forth with the central bank. So it's all coming to a boil. And when you spoke about the apparency that groceries are expensive. What really is, as you stated so aptly, it's the dollar's value that's going down, taking more of those dollars to buy that loaf of bread. And that's exactly one parallel that Juan O'Savin I spoke with a while back, last maybe a week or two ago on this very show. And one of the things he also said was previously on a broadcast with me was correlating to the stock market. And he said, listen, the Dow could go to 60,000. That's not the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is the fact that the purchasing power of that currency is going down rapidly. Last time I
Mhm.
checked, I think the dollar was at 96 point something on the dollar, comparative exchange uh, platform. And
Right.
and so it's my understanding the dollar still's got a ways to go downward, and that's going to
Mhm.
so the people near look, folks that don't have any money to invest, you will later when the repatriation of wealth comes in, and we'll save that for another day. But so it's going to be a little bit difficult till we get this straightened out. So everyone's just got to batten down the hatches. Now, for those that have investable assets, the antidote for the demise and deliberate death of the dollar, which is of course the Federal Reserve note, and we'll reissue we're going to talk about the parallel reissuing in a moment, but those with investable assets, the best solution in my book is gold and silver bullion to counter that because of its massive rise that we've experienced really over the last 10 years, but certainly last year, and all the forecasts that you just alluded to a moment ago of what on bringing gold and silver back up to its true value. So it's an extraordinary period of time. So why don't we talk about briefly the parallel system? If you could, uh, if you were to simplify it, thinking in terms of bullet point steps, maybe this thing happens and then this step. I have my theory on it based on what I've learned. I'm curious as to what yours is. In other words, we have the death of the Federal Reserve notes dollar in trajectory. At some point, game over with that. And you've alluded to, and we on this broadcast completely agree about the parallel system that's already set to go by and large. So, what would be the series of steps? Fed note dies. What happens next? What happens next? Ultimately, en route to our own decentralized wallet in a QFS, there are a series of things that I believe will be going through. What's your take on that?
Sure. So
In
before
other
I
words,
address
yeah,
this,
go ahead.
yeah, it's again another long, protracted, broad question, which is it's fine and it's fair. But before I do that, I just want to mention on the metal side, going back to the rare earth thing, I don't want
Hmm.
to forget to mention this. I also recommend people buy copper and platinum because
Hmm.
as gold and silver run, there's plenty of gold in the world. The world's awash with gold. Zimbabwe, Philippines, U.S., Australia. There's tons of countries that have it. Right? There's too many to mention. But we're in obviously in a rare supply of silver for the reasons I already mentioned, manufacturing and all that. But copper is an excellent backstop because it has, and I'm wearing a copper bracelet as an example. It's got healing properties, number one. So you could put it around theoretically your room and it would conduct and heal you quite literally. People who have used it can attest to that. But it's also used in copper pipes, plumbing, copper pans.
Hmm.
It's an excellent conductor for landlines, which, by the way, operate cell phones, in case people didn't know. That's the elephant in the room. It doesn't just come from the sky. Something has to be a conductor. And in landlines, copper is an excellent wiring component, particularly the wiring over the coin, obviously, and the cabling system that holds the landlines in place that gives us our respective signal. So I really recommend copper and platinum as backstops to gold and silver for when the inevitability of silver runs out. Now, as to your question about my thesis, if you will, on how I see things playing out, is if I think that's what you're asking from this point, is that correct?
Yeah, we have the Fed's funny money dying, and we know its ultimate destiny will be a collapse. But we,
Right.
the nation, won't. We're not going to collapse. There's a plan to take it from the death of the Federal Reserve note to this next step, to this next step, to ultimately a QFS system. Have you given any
Right.
thought to what those steps might be?
Only every day. This is an everyday thing for me, like you. It's a living, breathing animal. I don't think you can shut this off at this point. Um, we're not going to go down, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have pain. And it's not to fear porn anybody or anything like that. It's just to be honest. We have to talk about this stuff if we're really going to discuss this subject. And as you say, all fairness, we have to cover the whole thing. Again, I'm going to go back to the prophetic of Kim Clement. When things seem at their worst is the key. So you're going to have a dying dollar. You're going to have rumors of war in the Middle East, right? What we talked about with Iran, Iraq, and all that.
Yeah.
You're going to have the stock market. But now we are very blessed. One of our team members works for Schwab and is a numbers guy and knows the metals and knows the market system. What's really going to happen? He's been a contrarian to the old system for a while. He has a very good finger on his pulse. So be watching the S&P 500, right? That's for corporations to kind of gauge their success, quote unquote. Don't believe the job numbers. That's all. If you want to know the real numbers, you can study John Rich's book. Right, the real rate of unemployment is probably over 20%, and he gives the job numbers, and that I'll let people read at their leisure. But watch the S&P 500. It's about to hit 7,000. Okay, when it gets between 7 and 8,000, and you see the Dow is now historically last week, we told our audience this for a while on Telegram. If you on my Telegram, you know. Watch once we hit 50,000. We're now above that. As I look at the market right now, as of close today, just for as of this podcast, it's 50,121. It's down 66 points. That's negligible. It's nothing. That's a blip. But it's over the 50,000 mark, and it's staying there. Now, stay with me, John Michael, on this. This is kind of cool. You asked me about the Clarity Act. This goes back to the genesis of our conversation. Once this Clarity Act passes, it has huge implications for a number of things. The stock market, the S&P, cryptos, obviously, and metals, because everything runs together, as we've talked about with precious metals, obviously, as the underlayment. Our team member, Mr. B, we call him affectionately to protect his anonymity, feels strongly that the S&P has between a 7,000 to 8,000 level, and the Dow between 50 and 60,000. We're watching for Bitcoin to go down prophetically to somewhere between, again, I don't know the exact number, I'm just giving you a rough aggregate, somewhere between 20 and 40,000. It definitely has legs to go down. As you start to see these things happen, the bubble of the old system, like a piece of chewing gum, like a kid in Little League, blows up and up and up, and then it's done. And when that happens, that's when all HELL breaks loose. You see all this crazy stuff happening. You're going to see a crash of the old system. You have to see that. You cannot put old wineskins into new wineskins. They just don't work. We're like trying to put, old motor oil and new motor oil in an oil change. It doesn't jive. So you have to see the crash of the system. While that's happening, you're going to see another piece move of the symphony of this thing with gold and silver should start to protractively move up. As you said, it's close to 5,100. It's making gains to its high of, I think, 55, 5,600, somewhere in that range. We're going to see it go to 6, 7, 8,000. Somewhere, I'm guessing between 8 and 10,000, President Trump will say, hey, let's audit the Fed. Let's audit Fort Knox. Oh, surprise, surprise, wink, wink. We have the gold. We have more than we thought we did, right? Didn't Q always say we have the gold, right? And there you go. So that's the next movement, we believe. Then he's going to say, now that we've audited it, why don't we just get rid of the Fed and get rid of taxes and get rid of all these things, which he already did. He's already audited the Fed. So he's already audited the Fort Knox. Again, this is for optics for the public that does not know what our esteemed audiences already know. And then at that point, he's going to revalue gold and silver. So as we see all these puzzle pieces, moving and intersecting and colliding around each other into the central nervous system of this reset, you should see. Today there was a Save America Act. It barely passed in the House. You got to get it in the Senate. And once that, God willing, passes, then you're going to start to see the other discussion pieces of, no taxes, the Crypto Clarity Act, no taxes on cryptos, no taxes on the Forex, no taxes on foreign currency. And a lot of people are concerned about that. I wouldn't be, because the banks that will exchange, not redemption centers, folks, no 800 numbers. Don't get caught up in that scam. There's another scam. Just deal with the banks, the tier one banks. I know they're not perfect. They're no angels. Neither are any of us. But it's the way they're going to do this. And you say, why? because they've got to make the system go digital. How are they going to make it go digital if they don't get our currency from the respective countries that we hold, whoever people have, dinar, dong, zim, uh, bolivar, et cetera, et cetera. They've got to get that off the streets, get it back to the treasury, washes it, brings it back to the country of origin. Then they can digitize the system to make as you said, the QFS run. So as I see it, as our team sees it, these are ostensibly the steps that have to take place to get where we all want to get in our final destination.
Thank you. Yeah, a couple of comments on that. It's interesting and we're not going to get into the Epstein issue on this broadcast, but one of the things, oddly, that came out in the Epstein release as of recent is that there's no gold in Fort Knox. Now, that's interesting. Now, of course, that's not a newsflash to you, me, or our audience, much of our audience, and certainly not a newsflash to Ron Paul and G. Edward Griffin, who
Right.
were the ones yelling about that for decades before anyone was willing to discuss it. But anyway, that's all good news. So if I could get your comment on this, I this is sort of my feedback on the somewhat micro you just walked us through about the trajectory from death to something else. Would it be a fair
Mm-hmm.
statement to say this? So first we have the crash, step one. That's in progress, but we're not there yet. Even Juan O'Savin said the dollar will have its near-death experience, and we're on that trajectory. Okay, so here we
Correct.
go. Step one, Fed note dollar it collapses. At the same time, this is how I see it, and then I'd like you to weigh in on it briefly. So then we issue, as that goes down, you talked about the parallel. Well, our audience is going, well, what? Because all the questions come, well, how do I buy food? How do I pay my rent? What do I do? Well, as that goes down, and as you said, no pain, no gain, we're going to have to suffer a little bit. This is a war. Then Trump to the rescue, if you will. We now have a treasury dollar backed in part by gold, silver, and perhaps other commodities to replace that Fed dollar because we got to exchange. Does that get issued? And is it issued in paper or is it issued as a stable coin? But now we have whichever modality it's in, we now have the good faith and credit in the US currency again, bigger and better than it ever was in the petrodollar. And then the revaluation, as you stated, happened. So we're strong with the replacement of those green bills in our pockets right now. Then we're in that mode. And then somewhere along the journey, that stable coin, which is our dollar backed by commodities and so forth, strong as can be, being used the world over again, at least many of the countries. Then we take that and it goes into a quantum financial system where we have as you said, a decentralized private digital wallet, which essentially is your bank. And that, of course, is encrypted with Space Force technology and so forth. And then we begin to operate in there. Are these the three simplified steps, or have I missed it? Am I off the mark? What's your opinion about that?
So, as I commonly tell my audience, John Michael, two things can be true in the same space. It's not one or the other. We've been indoctrinated on this earth for many decades, even centuries, I would argue, that it's black or white, Coke or Pepsi, up or down, Republican, Democrat. And that's all done on purpose to create division and antipathy
Yeah,
between the
sure.
masses. So, in the spirit of that, I would say that two things can coexist in the same space. That will be true for both the paper and the digital. Okay. Eventually, as we discussed last time, the banks we talked about earlier, one of the banks on the Chicago Mercantile has gone down.
Yeah.
The big banks are
Hmm.
going to eventually go away in the next 3 to 4 years because what we have, and I forgot to mention this, but let me please take this opportunity to do so. We have another key point that we need to be watching, and I can't skirt past this, and that is the 10 and 30-year Treasury bond markets, which is just nothing more than worthless paper crap tied to a worthless Federal Reserve note that is neither federal or has any reserves, and it's any more federal than Federal Express, as Greg Manarino, my friend, likes to put it. So we're watching some of the data sets from different people, whether it's this year or next year. My guess it'll be next year. We're going to see a 10% bond market implosion. Doesn't sound like a lot. It's catastrophic because that has
Hmm.
massive ripples. That's calling in the equivalency of the metals
Yeah.
on the backwardization side to the paper. That would be the parallel to put it,
Yep.
in context for the audience. By the end of this decade in 2030, which is their agenda 2030, you'll see the rest of the 90%. So this is a Noah get on the boat situation, not fearful, faithful and prepared, and mindset shift. No, you're not off by much at all. You're pretty much, I would say, 90+% of the way there. I just felt it was important to mention that. Going back to what you said, let's not skirt past the gold part. There is gold in Fort Knox. So that's not true. How much we have, I mean, unless you're in there, you don't know, but it doesn't matter because a lot of the gold that we have is in Colorado, the Grand Canyon.
Yep.
There's something called plaster gold. Bix Weir is credited for talking about this a lot. It's pure 24 karat gold, like strips of papyrus. You could peel off the wall. It's beautiful. Many presidents have tried to get at it and weren't able to do so. So if you go down the bottom of those hills, whether you walk down or a donkey, what have you, you see security and velvet ropes. And that's because that's what they're protecting from the public. But that's our goal,
Yep.
that we have every right to get to that. And I think at some point we will. I don't know when, but I believe that we will, because the whole thing is being deconstructed. But what I see is as I said to you before, a Joseph moment of 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. And we're walking into the golden age this year. President Trump has told you that, of the beginning of the
Yes.
prosperity stages. Many people have not seen it in their wallets yet, but they will. So let's go back to your question. What happens during the crash? That's when my belief is that what he's going to do, he's going to remove the taxes. Okay. He's going to revalue gold and silver as he stabilizes and transitions the economy. I use the stadium theory. Go to a football game, the current stadium, let's say it's on its last year, and they're going to demolish it, and next year you're in the brand new stadium, right? We've seen that in many instances before throughout the world. So the season ends, the old dollar ends, they turn off the lights, they demo it, and they turn on the lights of the new stadium, and boom. The idea here is to have as much of a seamless transition as possible. The question becomes, and rightly so, how do you get there? We've outlined some of those steps. I think one of the things he's going to do, and I know people are frustrated, I get it, don't shoot the messenger, I'm just telling you what I see. I think he's holding off on the dividend checks, the Doge checks, and all that stuff, parts of Nasara. It's an element of Nasara to start to, as he removes the taxes, lowers the fuel costs, lowers the food costs, because you now have a stable, actual, real currency backed by real precious metals and other things in numerous accounts, coupled with money's coming back. I wouldn't pay taxes personally, but some people are still in that matrix. They're going to start getting huge tax returns coming back, the likes of which they've never seen. So he's going to start dust of elements in different verticals, if you will, to counteract the crash and all these other things, to stabilize before it goes into a complete nosedive.
Fascinating times, and everyone just needs to. Well, I'm going to talk about this in the latter part of the program. How to get out of the system during this transition, which is really the thrust of this show. I'm action oriented. I always say, saving America and protecting your wealth is not a spectator sport. It requires action on our behalf. And I'm going to get into some action items later. But Jon, I'd like to close out with an important question. The word Bitcoin came up a couple of times, and I get a lot of questions in a dedicated email I provide for the public, and just in general, different ways that people reach me. Bitcoin. All right, you mentioned it before, may be driven down. I think it's at what, 67,000 or something. Now it's in a free fall. So I have a few questions to wrap up this broadcast with you, sir, on Bitcoin. As my understanding from 107, and he told this to me years ago, off camera and then on camera, and he certainly now put it out there on all the podcaster platforms for quite some time, that crypto itself was a DARPA creation. And as you fast forward and paraphrase what President 107 spoke about, was in simplified. Okay, so there's the creation. The story goes that Clinton, of course, was supposed to win in 2016. Thank goodness that didn't happen. And she was going to then, as everyone drove all their money into the crypto world, basically bankrupt us out of it, and for their benefit. So it was a black hat operation from the onset. Now things have changed along the way and so forth. So we have now Bitcoin is the discussion crashing. It's my understanding, and I'm not an expert in the crypto space. It's not on the 8 to 10 ISO compliant approved lists. Trump's family has American Bitcoin that they're mining. I'm throwing a lot of darts at the board here. President Trump has stated we're going to be the crypto capital of the world. Now, when you take all that stuff I just threw in there, it creates one big mystery sandwich of confusion. So, what's your take to clarify Bitcoin's position now and moving forward? What's your take on Bitcoin?
Okay, so yes, I'm familiar with Juan Savin and his theories, and as that gentleman mentioned, uh, Q also said this a long time ago, John Michael, disinformation is necessary. And I think that that becomes challenging for most people who don't, rightly so, you don't live this, don't breathe this, don't do this 24/7 like we do at present. They have jobs, they have lives, they have things to contend with. I get that. I can appreciate that. We've been given the beautiful and challenging task of trying to analyze and decode this for the season that we're in to help them as best we can, given the fact that we're human. So, okay, so I don't currently own any Bitcoin because I'm not currently able to afford it, and I know that it's in transition. This would be the worst time to buy it if I'm for people who want to buy it. I know a lot of people who don't. I'm not talking about the ones who don't. I'm just saying there's some people who are thinking about it, whatever. That this would be the wrong time. Let it if you're going to do that. Put buy sell limit orders on like a Schwab or Fidelity account. Wait for it to crash along with the other system. It's only going to go down to that 20,000 or maybe less. I don't know, 15, who knows, for a blip, an hour or two. You catch it on the down. If you were thinking of investing it, you can catch it on the up. It's going to come back, whether you like it or not. President Trump is invested in it. The banks are invested in it. Yes, the banks are going to go away at some point, but doesn't mean they're not going to get their pound of flesh in the meantime. Anybody who thinks that doesn't really understand how banks or finances really work. Everybody kind of should know that banks are in it for themselves. And that's the problem going back to the initial conversation. So this is good that you asked me because it goes back to the genesis of this conversation, the Clarity Act. Clarity Act has been pretty much one-sided for the banks. It has not been good for the people. And I don't think it's ever going to be equal for the people in the banks. But if we hope that we could get maybe 30, 40% favorability for the people, enough for the people who have changed their mindset and rightly, as you stated, taken action along the way, they can take advantage of this and help those who are unable to help themselves for a sundry amount of reasons. But Bitcoin is going to come back our team believes over the next, with data sets that we've studied, we believe over the next, who knows, 3, 4, 5 years, we'll say, it's going to be at like $4 or $5 million a coin. And I'm sorry, excuse me, 4 or 5 billion, 4 or 5 billion, $4 or $5 billion a coin. It's going to go through the stratosphere. So can't tell you what to do. I would never do that. I know some people. Just take it to God and ask Him, like any investment, what you should or should not have. That's the easiest route. But it is going to come back. It's not going away, whether people like it or not. It doesn't mean you have to invest in it. Just know it's going to come back. The whole thing with the suppression, John Michael, with metals, as you know, and I'm sure most of the audience here knows, it was manipulation by the banks. Why? Because they want to buy it up on the cheap. Why would they want to buy it on the high price point? They drove it down so they could take advantage, scarf it up, and then send it back. What are they trying to do? Trying to fear porn through the enemy, those of us who hold these faith-based blessings, to try to FOMO or fear porn us out of the market. Just hodl, hold on for your dear life. You don't lose if you don't sell. That's the thing you have to think about. Okay, so with all these coins or the currencies or the metals, don't get upset if you bought gold at $100 and it went, or $110 and it goes down to, 70, $80. That's a buying opportunity. See, that's what I mean by the mindset. Too many people have a fear-based mindset. Oh no, I lost. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. And I'll prove it. John Michael, you lived in New York City. I spend time in New York City. I'm here in LA for now, working on my Exodus plan. And this is part of that once God releases me. So you're used to, like me, a multitude of freeways, right? So when you're trying to merge onto a freeway, and anybody lives anywhere near a freeway, highway, whatever, wherever you live in the Midwest, Florida, doesn't matter. We're all dealt with freeways. Do you say to yourself, oh, gee, if I don't get on at this exact moment, I'm never going to get on? No, you're just like, you're watching for rhythm. You're like, when's the right time to get on? When you can get on, when there's a clear open path, whether it's within the first 5 seconds or it takes 2 minutes or a minute and a half, doesn't matter. Just get on the road so you can get to your destination. Similarly with silver, if you're in, you're not losing. It doesn't, I mean, yeah, it'd be ideal if everybody could get in when it was $10, $11 years ago, but that ship has sailed. It's never going to hit that again. I can
Oh
promise
yeah.
you. And I
Oh yeah.
don't say that word lightly. It's going to go up. So if you're buying now at $82.50 or whatever it is right now in the futures market or Shanghai, it's like I said, I told you earlier what it really is. You buy now, it's just going to keep going up 100, 200, 300, 4, 5, 6, 7 to $1,000. And then it's just going to run parallel up, as I said earlier, with gold. So it's just a matter of how ravenous you want your profit margins to be or care about such things, but you're not going to lose because you're in it. So, but Bitcoin is definitely here to stay. And it's, everybody has to make the decision if they want to get in or not. That's a personal thing, but it's not going away, but it doesn't mean you have to participate in it.
Thank you. Yeah, Bitcoin's got a lot of momentum on the downside, and as you stated, billion with a B. Wow. Let's see. Let's see. Let's
Yeah.
let's watch this as time goes by. And a lot of good wisdom you shared with us there just a moment ago, John. I want to thank you for talking with us today. Come back and visit with us down the line. But before you close out, where's your site's been up there the entire broadcast, jondowling.net, if that's accurate. Talk a little bit about you. Go ahead.
Well, it's actually jondowling.com. That was the old site. We lost the old
.com.
site.
That's why.
Yeah, we got it
That's
back.
why I
That's why you got
mentioned
all
these
those.
things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's
Okay.
.com. That was the original site.
JohnDowling.com. Say it
That's
three
for my
times,
music.
JohnDowling.com.
Yeah, john.com. That's if people want to go check out my music in the background. For that, that's there. For the actual sites where we are, not the imposter sites, because we get that all the time. We're not on Facebook. We're not on Instagram. We're not on X. So that ain't us. If you see that, that's not us.
Okay.
Where are we? We're on Telegram, which I've left you the link for that. Telegram, https://me.com/Jon Dowling. And Chris, Real World. You can see us on YouTube, Chris Real World and myself. My name on Rumble and on BitChute. That's where we actually are as a legitimate housing sites for our information.
Good. All right. Well, JohnDowling.com has been corrected up on the screen, as you can see. And so, folks, follow John. For those that aren't, you'll get more information and good information like you just got here on his guest appearance. And I appreciate all the work you're doing, John, and as you alluded to many times, the team that you have behind the scenes, if you will. So keep up the great work, and thanks for sharing with us your insights, your knowledge, and your passion. God bless you, sir, and thanks for being here. We'll see you down the line.
Take care. God bless you, Michael.
All righty. Thank you. I'd like to talk briefly. I've got Brandon Clarke. We're introducing to our audience here for the first time in just a few minutes. I want to bring our attention to the Wealth Coach University. Every As I mentioned earlier, action. Action changes things. You've got to do something, especially with all the knowledge that you're getting each week on this broadcast and anywhere else that you're looking for truth in this space of the financial arena. So let's take a look at the modules. On wealthcoachuniversity.com, I produced 10 free video modules. Perhaps we have an image of that. And well, apparently there it is. All right, great. So you'll see as you scroll down the page, 10 free modules: orientation, GOOSE, get out of the system, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. Understanding precious metals, very important. All the pitfalls are outlined, many of them, I should say, are outlined in that module. Number 4, guaranteed income. And that's what Brandon Clarke is going to speak about in just a moment. We have crypto. We talk about healthy living, preparedness, faith, action, and wealth coach consult. Those that are interested, who need help, have assets to protect, and want someone to guide them through the minefields that are definitely out there through this reset. I'm available through mechanism on the site for private wealth coach consult. But I want to direct our attention to module 4, and this is guaranteed income. This is very, very important, particularly for those very close to retirement. You've worked all these years. If you've been blessed and fortunate enough to have accumulated wealth, perhaps in an IRA or 401k or 403b, something the IRS calls qualified money, or just money outside of an IRA, you're planning to pull the trigger soon and, quote, retire, if people can still do that in America. And that requires, that's very specialized planning, because the work years are behind you, or will be soon, and the nest egg you've been fortunate enough to accumulate. Walt Whitman once said, "It takes a great deal of effort to make a great fortune. And once you've acquired that fortune, it requires 10 times as much effort to keep it." And that's where Brandon Clarke, in part, comes in, retirement planning specialist. We're going to talk a little bit about annuities. Uh, we're just going to scratch the surface. I'm going to move Brandon through a few different things here just to introduce him to you. And we're going to have Brandon back to start breaking this down. Now, those in retirement really want to listen up. So, anyway, Brandon Clarke is the owner and founder of Triad Retire LLC. He has dedicated the majority of the last 15 years to serving his clients in insurance and financial based needs. Triad Retire is committed to helping clients find the most effective means to establish both their living and lasting legacies nationwide. By the way, I'm a firm believer in some of the things Brandon's going to talk about, but they're not all created equally, these investment products offered by the insurance industry. So we'll break that down over time. I encourage everyone to go to that free module at wealthcoachuniversity.com. And then any further questions, you can connect up with Brandon. Brandon designs guaranteed income, growth, and legacy plans for clients, which often place an emphasis on tax-free income and optimal retirement distributions you cannot outlive. I mean, who doesn't want that? A guaranteed income you can't outlive. Believe me, folks, when you get to retirement, and those in retirement listening to me, you know what I'm talking about. One of the greatest concerns we have in retirement, besides our health, is outliving our assets, outliving our income. So Brandon is a long-time North Carolina resident and graduate of Appalachian State University, has a master's of business administration with a finance focus from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro. He loves helping people nationwide. He's just to get the full intro out for the first time on this broadcast. Brandon has been married to his college sweetheart, a nice story, since 2006, and has a daughter and a son. When not diving into personal development work, he enjoys spending the weekends with his family, taking adventures from the beach to the mountains, golfing, and supporting the local Triad, North Carolina community. So there's your formal introduction. Please welcome a good gentleman I've done the litmus test on that can help you. Please listen up to Brandon Clarke. Welcome, Brandon. Can you hear me, sir? We've got no audio on Brandon. We don't hear his voice.
I
So
apologize. That was probably on my part, but I am honored to be here uh, on the show and helping you out. And no, it's good to be here with the audience.
well, thank you. And we've got your audio loud and clear. You had it on mute while you were patiently waiting in the digital green room, which is good thing to do. So thanks for being here, Brandon. Again, to our audience, you have to understand this gentleman, because he and I have spoken, and he's part of what I call my resource network. As is, you see on the screen, Triad Retire, you see Genesis Gold. These are two very important instruments to help us get out of the system, which is in module 4 for you at Wealth Coach University. We're going to learn more about all the experience and knowledge that Brandon has in this particular arena over time. So I just want to kind of comb through a few things. The uncertainties today, as we go through this global financial reset, people, again, are preparing for retirement, and especially those already in retirement, please listen up. They're concerned about maintaining their lifestyle, adjusted for inflation, because, again, the working years are behind you. You don't want to outlive your resources, and you want to maintain your lifestyle in retirement. So let's talk briefly about annuities. Briefly, there are many different types. They're not that one annuity may be suitable for this person and not suitable for that person. Talk about the different types of annuities, Brandon, if you will, please.
And yeah, I believe there's really two categories, maybe nine types. We're not going to go into all of those, but the main two categories are variable, which would be in the market with risk, and then we have fixed annuities on the fixed indexed annuities, which are not in the market and don't have the risk. And really, what I specialize in to help people with for the guaranteed lifetime income, because we want to have it in a secure, guaranteed account. Um, yeah, and then on the fixed side, there are the main primary reasons that we do the plans is to add guaranteed income streams to, say, Social Security, to a pension that you may have. And that, as we know, I believe 10% of people are retiring with pensions now. It used to be much more prevalent, in the workplace. And so the worst thing that can happen, in my view, is someone retires, they're on Social Security, they have funds, but those funds run out while they're still living. So what the guaranteed income plan does is it eliminates that longevity risk, the chance that they can,
Hmm.
run out of money while they're living, at least. We work to make a upfront plan to see what assets they have, and then we put a portion into that, and then your other assets are used for inflation risk and variable expenses and those other types of. I would say my slogan may be, buy income and invest the rest. Um, so I think that gives like a good opening groundwork of what the primary focus is with the guaranteed income module in the financial network.
Thank you. Yeah. Talk a little bit about, again, folks, I'm going to comb us through things, kind of ping pong Brandon around here a little bit, just to give you a taste of what we'll be delving into in further detail in future episodes. But there is suitability and compliance. I know a thing or two about the industry, and suitability and compliance is very important. Unlike the precious metals industry, which virtually has none, I mean, there's really very little regulation or oversight on in that market space, which is which is we'll talk about next week with Bill Armour from Genesis Metals. Very important to pick the right companies there because there is very little, if any, oversight. Now, it's quite different in the space you operate in. As you well know, Brandon, it is regulated by state insurance commissioners. There's layers and layers of all kinds of public protection, which is good news. So, briefly discuss some of the suitability and compliance things that when you wear that hat, to make sure you're doing what's in the best interest of the client. Talk briefly about some of those layers of protection for the investor.
And this may be the most important part that I talk about tonight, because each client that I meet with, before a plan is put in place, I do a fact finder. We go over, assets that you have. We're not doing that to learn what the assets are, but we're doing that because only a portion of your assets should be put into an annuity. Um, Very big on that. So, and the annuity companies, as part of enrolling in an annuity, they have suitability that we must provide. So, emergencies happen, urgent items happen in life, and we don't want someone's money to be in a certain place they can't get to it, or they get a fee charge, something bad happens because they were just trying to upgrade their retirement. So we definitely want to, make sure it's suitable for the person. Make sure they completely understand the contract. With a guaranteed income annuity, it's a contract, and if both people do their part, the I use a company that has very highly ratings, has very good financials. They're going to say, we're going to give you this income stream for life, and then you, on your part, you put that premium down, you we have immediate income. We also have, deferred 1 year, 2 year out, and you do your part there, and you will get your stream for the rest of your life. And it fits perfectly in that case. Compliance wise, I have a resident license in the state of North Carolina where I live, and then I have a non-resident license, I believe, in 37 states right now. But I cover every state in the country except for New York. But New York, we have partners with as well if needed. I just bring that up because of the regulatory environment in New
Yes.
York. That's just,
Yep.
but that might not even be something that I needed to say here because we handle each case one to one basis, and you're going to get the best option for each time. But we make sure, yes, that you understand everything because compliance is very important, and we want this to be a long term plan where we help you and we help you ongoing throughout retirement as well.
Thank you. Yeah, and while I do know, about your operation, our audience doesn't. You are an independent uh, retirement planning specialist. In other words, you're not captive where you can only represent one company's products. You can shop the competitors and find the best product from the best company to meet the specific needs of that client. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Yes, and I have always been an independent, agent just because I didn't start any of these companies that provide these products, so I don't feel that strongly about saying that I should only work for one. Nothing against
Hmm.
someone that does work for a quote captive company. But in that case, they are only providing the annuities or the retirement products for that company. When I meet with someone, depending on if the person is 59 or 69 or 49, married, has kids, like what their goals are, when they want to start income, there are around 30 to 40 companies that we look at with the software programs in order to find you the best choice. So we truly
Hmm.
want it
Thank
to
you.
be, with a highly rated carrier and have the highest income. Sorry about that.
Thank you. No, very good. Yeah, again, I'm going to comb us through a lot of different things just to give those pre-retirees and those in retirement an idea about the vast amount of issues that can be addressed in this world. So we'll just touch on the next thing. Now, a lot of folks already have annuities. I mean, they've been around, well over 100 years, and so folks that like cars, to use that analogy. I mean, if someone's driving a 20 or 30-year-old car. Uh, and you put that car into comparison of today's cars, they're vastly different. And while some car collectors like the older cars, I get that. But you know what I'm talking about: power steering versus none. Digital screens in your computer, and AC and all the fancy things that new cars can do versus old cars. It's the same thing in the annuity world. So those folks that have annuities that may be 5, 10 years old, let's say. Would it be a fair statement to say that due to competition and regulation, the insurers have vastly changed the chassis, if you will, of the annuity world? So those that have 5 or 10-year-old annuities, hypothetically, could be less years or more years. Um, uh, are they trapped in there? Can they upgrade their annuity to something more competitive, something more in their best interest today? And if so, how would they be able to do that?
Yes. I mean, when someone has anything that is 5 to 10 years old, and I mean, I've spoken to people that have a 20-year-old annuity. Just the rates are going to be different. Just like any industry, different industries that you talk about, precious metals, even things are evolving. So the companies, there are a lot of competition out there. They are trying to offer rates to be the best, to have the highest income. I also see a lot where, someone does an annuity 5 years ago and their goals have changed over a 5 year or 10-year period.
Mhm.
And the reason they actually
Yes,
have
for
that
sure.
could be totally different. And if someone does an
Yep.
income based annuity and they don't need income anymore, or they do a growth based annuity and they're pulling money out that's not really advantageous to them long term, and we can put them in a lifetime guaranteed income annuity. It just depends on the circumstance, but there are definitely many that we can upgrade.
Yes. Well, excellent. And so, folks, if you have these older annuities, Brandon can do an analysis of them and find out what your goals are, if they remain the same or if they're different, and see if there's an annuity that can perform better, perhaps less cost, and more suitable for where you are today. And there are mechanisms to tax free exchange them of one annuity for the other as long as it passes the compliance test. It's in your best interest. So that's important to note for those sitting with annuities. It's always good to get a review. It's like, a lot of us go to the doctor once a year for a health checkup. You should get a wealth checkup as well. That leads me to IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, qualified accounts. Some financial advisors will say never move your 401k or IRA, et cetera, into an annuity because IRAs are already tax deferred. You- An annuity is tax deferred, no benefit. But what they miss is that G word, guarantee. That would be a reason one would consider moving these IRAs or 401ks. Not so much for the tax deferral, you already got that, but it's for the guaranteed income plans or the growth buckets and different ways that these plans can be designed. Any comments you have about managing people's money from 401ks and IRAs out of strictly the markets and the bond markets collapsing? There's questions about the stock market. So do you have clients that you have directed into annuities from these type of accounts, IRAs, 401ks?
I would say that 401ks, IRA type accounts are what I deal with the most.
Hmm,
You have had the tax deferral over time. This maintains that tax deferral, so that's not a new special, but you maintain that.
right.
But what it does is guarantee that you will never lose money from the time you put it in, because we put it in a fixed guaranteed product. It's not going to be in the market anymore. The other advantage is you defer those taxes, you put it into a product that can give you the guaranteed income, because if you don't have it in an annuity, Social Security is an annuity. It's a guaranteed income until, well, we hope it's guaranteed, but it's an annuity that is meant to pay you for life. A pension is an annuity. Um, and other strategies we do with qualified accounts, if it is something that fits the person, or qualified from an IRA pre-tax to a qualified Roth IRA. We help people with conversions. They may want to get their money in the tax-free side before their required minimum distributions start when they're 72, 73. There's
Mhm.
just different strategies for that. So we're going to do a full spectrum review, go over the options beforehand. If it's not a fit, you don't do an annuity. We don't do one unless it's suitable, compliant, in your best interest. You need the income. You are looking for safety. You're looking for the guarantees. Someone that says, I want the highest return and no guarantees, well, I might not be for you. But I would still advise to put some in the guaranteed bucket. But we're really trying to help people have peace of mind and lower stress for years, and then help them out along the way.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you. Yeah, to our audience, that's the reason why out of the 10 modules, I speak about GOOTS, GOOTS, get out of the system. Gold and silver being a core component for obvious reasons that we cover every week on this broadcast, as we did with Jon Dowling. But there are other components to the GOOTS model. The GOOTS model will serve us through this financial reset, and one of those is securing a guaranteed income. Now, you mentioned a fixed indexed annuity earlier on, Brandon. Now, as I understand, there are compartments, we'll call them. There's segments of where money can be allocated to do different things within the contract. This bucket of money is going to grow at this rate for this period of time. This bucket of money, all of it can be deferred. This bucket of money is going to trigger income now or later. There's all these things that you do in the plan design. And I just want our audience to know what's the trade-off for all these guarantees, right? You get market indexed exposure with no risk. You know, if you make 8% one year, it's locked in, doesn't go back down. Too good to be true? No, there's a trade off for it. And the trade off, one of the trade offs is, as you were alluding to earlier, Brandon, is in a suitability with the compliance officer hat, is making sure you don't put all your money in there. Why? Because there's limited liquidity, right? Generally speaking, is it 10% per year, the maximum? Talk a little bit about that. That's the trade-off, folks. So don't disconnect just because it sounds too good to be true. It is true, but the trade-off is liquidity. Talk a little bit about that and the plan designs. Am I right about the different buckets and how you can construct an inequity of, what is it called, a fixed indexed annuity to meet the needs of a client? Comment on these things if you will, please.
And I do want to hit on one more thing that I forgot to mention on the qualified side with 401ks,
Mhm.
just because of the fact that, when you're in a 401k, you're in an agreement, like the company that you worked for or the company that buys that retirement program or whatever is the owner until you move your money out. So I always advise people to move it out into their own IRAs, into their own.
Yeah.
So then you can say an annuity is the best thing, not an annuity is the best thing, but it's in your ownership and it's not in that company's anymore. Um, Back to your question though, in regard to, sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Can you ask
No
that
problem.
one
Yeah.
question, that last part one more
Yeah.
time?
Just
Oh,
sure.
okay, I
Just
got it
talking
now.
about,
So fixed indexed annuities have really two components, and some of them are more vanilla than others. Some people just want a safe, secure, where they can grow their money and have no chance of loss. And you say it's too good to be true. It's based on the market. Well, let's just give an example. So there may be where you have a floor of zero. You can't lose. It does lock in every year, but say based on the S&P 500, it has a 9.5% cap. Now, you can't lose if we have a negative 20 downturn like we had in 2022, your money doesn't go down. But if we have
yep.
a year like last year where the S&P went up over 15%, you're going to get 9.5. But in the long run, we're looking for 8, 7, 8, 9% long term with that. Then you're going to be doing very well because you don't ever have to make up those losses. If you get a 20% loss, you got to have a 40% gain to get back to where you were. So when you don't have any losses, you don't have to go through those gains. Plus, when you're in retirement, if you're pulling income out of plans, you never want to pull income out at a loss. So if your money is in a plan that cannot lose, you never have that worry. I mean, if you're getting money from a guaranteed income fixed indexed annuity, then it's set. It's guaranteed. We do have level, which is going to be like the highest payout you can get. And then we do have inflation indexed, where it will go up over
Hmm.
time based on the CPIU. If you do the inflation based one, obviously it's going to start lower and it's going to be lower for a number of years because they know if you live for a long time, that amount's
Hmm.
going to be paid out higher. Um, but yes, there's different components to it, and it's designed based on what works best for the person. May be depending on your goals of guaranteed income, guaranteed growth, or due to ages. There's just different components that we plan for you.
Yes, thank you very much. To our audience, again, I'm raising this issue back to the GOOTS model because sometimes people will hit me, get out of the system. This sounds like it's in the system. Hey, folks, it's just a play on words. Get out of the system. The only way to completely get out of the system is to move to Mars with Elon Musk. But what I'm talking about here is surviving and thriving through this global financial reset on what I've identified as some of the components to do that. Gold and silver being one, crypto being a slice of the other. You've got the annuities. You can study the free modules at wealthcoachuniversity.com because, again, we're action oriented. There's also an advisor scorecard on my website that you can take a look at, wealthcoachuniversity.com. And as we wrap up, Brandon, we'd love to have you back perhaps later this month or in March to start. Really, so much to know in this space, folks, to really start narrowing things down. And perhaps we'll have Brandon in our Patriot Q&A live for our premium members down the line, for those that really want to take this subject on and get your questions answered. But for those that don't want to wait, if you own existing annuities, or you're thinking about rolling over a 401k or an IRA into an annuity. And by the way, you can roll some into the annuity to reach the objectives for that money for your life. You can roll some into gold and silver as a hedge against the collapsing currency. It's a plan design. So, but for those that would like an annuity review, if you already own an annuity or you're considering acquiring annuity, you can, there's your phone number, 336 265 7263. Also, you can visit the website, learn a little bit more. There's a frequently asked questions section on the website. Simple website, but good information. Triadretire.com. So, Brandon, would you offer free consults for reviews of annuities or running illustrations for prospective new annuities for those that reach out to you from this broadcast?
Yes, and I'm honored to help go over your goals and see if we can upgrade an annuity, if you're suitable for a annuity. Like mentioned earlier, a lot of ones that we do are 401k, IRA based, just to help people. And like I said, if you're in one of those plans, then it's owned by whatever company you worked for until you move that money out. So they can make changes. If they go insolvent, there could be protections that you have to go through. So you wanted to go ahead and get the money into one that you own yourself. To go back to being part of this financial network, I'm a big believer in diversifying in retirement in hard assets such as precious metals, having deflationary items such as crypto, and that's the way the world is moving. And then also making sure to have at least your fixed expenses covered with guaranteed income. And he said one of the a big word earlier. He said portion. Like, we're going to put a portion of the money into the annuity to cover fixed expenses or to cover the secure part, and then I will work with you and John to make sure that the rest of it is handled correctly, by a different specialist. But we all work in tandem
Mhm.
together.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. We look forward to having you back on. We're going to probably in each episode delve deeply into one or two subjects so our audience really begins to grasp it. But I would also close out with this. Uh, it, 401k, 403bs, they're great because you've been working all these years. You're making a contribution. You're getting a tax deduction when you file your taxes for that contribution. Sometimes your company is matching a percentage. I hate to call it free money because it's not free, you're working, but that's the mechanics of it. And that is all good. But when it's not good? It's not good when, when, well, let me say this. While you may have many investment options available, the truth is it's very restrictive because you only have what the plan administrators signed up with that financial company. It's also very expensive money. There's administrator fees, there's money management fees. So when is the time to roll over a 401k, 403b to a self-directed IRA, as Brandon talked about a moment ago? In my opinion, the day you retire, because all you're left with is expensive money with limited investment options, and your goals have changed. You want to lock that in, or a portion of, depending on your circumstance, into something guaranteed or into the gold and silver, depending on what the plan design is. So please reach out if you have any questions. Give Brandon Clarke a call, 336-265-7263. Believe me, the younger folks that probably tuned us out right now because they're not thinking about this, all right? And I understand that. But anyone listening right now, chances are you're close to retirement or in retirement. I can't stress enough to access a free consult on this side of the equation in the GOOSE model, as well as those that need gold and silver. Give Bill Armour a call at Genesis. Thank you, Brandon Clarke. Any last closing statements or comments you'd like to make before we sign you off, sir?
I'm honored to be part of the network and to all the viewers, just to be able to come and present myself. And we're here to help. If we can help at all, there's nothing wrong with going over the situation, and helping. We're just here to help you. So I'm honored to be here. Honored to go over that information. It's a passion of mine to help people have income that will never end for life. There's even studies that show you live longer. So, yeah.
You bet. Well, thank you. Believe me, I'm 67 and I took a stab at retirement many years ago. But God pulled me back into the arena, into broadcasting, oddly enough, 7, 8 years ago. And here I sit today, but I'm enjoying what I do. We cover in our other broadcasts all the aspects of this deep state war that we're engaged in to free us and give us back our sovereignty. But I'll tell you what, one aspect of that is to understand the get out of the system modules, wealthcoachuniversity.com. Bill Armour's available to you, free consult, and so is Brandon Clarke. So thank you, Brandon, for joining us. We'll see you a little bit down the road. Give him a call, get a free analysis. And I'll be right back after a very important announcement concerning Michael Jaco.
Don't miss this month's live Patriot Q&A Hour as John Michael Chambers hosts our Patriot Power guest, retired Navy SEAL Special Ops CIA Michael Jaco. Get your questions answered. Mark your calendars. February 26, 2026, 8 p.m. Eastern Time sharp. Visit jmcbroadcasting.com and click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your password and you're in. Not a JMC Broadcasting Premium member yet? You could be. Simply click on the Premium Portal Sign-Up tab. Enter your info, and that's it. John and Jaco. Looking forward to answering your questions for the solid hour. See you there. Where we go one, we go all.
John and Jaco, come join us, jmcbroadcasting.com. Learn more about it. Now, you're looking at the screen here. This is our free subscription. Again, to our audience, all of our broadcasting is free. Always has been, always will be. 99% of what we do is free to the public. The premium portal, let me talk about free since we're on the screen here. When you sign up for the free subscription, you'll get notified of our broadcasts. You should also click the Rumble and Facebook and follow us there. Rumble will send you every time our shows are published there. But the free subscription, I do an audio, about 30 minutes, an audio update of the drive-by news events of the week from my perspective. So that's part of the free subscription, as well as a newsletter and a copy of Trump and the Resurrection of America, my 5-star bestseller at Amazon.com. Okay, next image is I don't know what it is. There it is the premium. So you go to jmcbroadcasting.com, click on Premium Portal, and learn about it. There's a little video there to give you a tutorial. You see the list of various things you get there. And one of the banner pinnacles aspects of delivery in the Premium Portal is the once a month live Q&A. It's a Zoom. I'm on screen hosting, and our power guest last month was Will Barney. This month, coming in a couple of weeks, is Michael Jaco. And all the folks you see me interviewing on all my broadcasts, as well as others that aren't on, will be featured one at a time, once a month, for one solid hour, simply dedicated to answering your questions. So consider that. That's basically it. Premium, there it is. There's the announcement. Michael Jaco, February, where's the date? 26th, 8 p.m. Eastern. Sign up. We'll see you there. The last one was very successful. Thanks to Will Barney and thanks to all of our premium members. Next week on the GFR show is with a Will and Bill hour. We've got Will Barney coming back in to give us his high-level analysis on what the hell's transpired just in the past week on multiple fronts, and Bill Armour to weigh in on this very same issues and to be a resource for you in the gold and silver space. In fact, he'll probably be one of the Patriot Q&A guests a little bit down the line later this year. So joining me again next week is Will and Bill. I want to thank Jon Dowling and Brandon Clarke for giving us all their insights, their time, and value in today's broadcast. This is John Michael Chambers speaking with his voice. Speak with your voice. We'll see you next week live here on the Global Financial Reset. Stay safe, and may God be with you.
The Global Financial Reset is happening right now. The opportunities through this transition remain for some time to come. Don't miss this unprecedented moment in history. But caution, identify the dangers through this transition and prevent fatal mistakes by being ill-advised or uninformed. Schedule your private wealth coach consult with John Michael Chambers on a Zoom screen meeting. The ability to meet with JMC is very limited. Learn more by visiting wealthcoachuniversity.com. Once prepared, schedule your consult with JMC. It's time to seize the opportunities and to GOOSE. Yes, GOOSE. Get out of the system. QFS, stablecoin, the US dollar, gold and silver, Fed IRS changes, income needs. Your personal situation will be addressed. It's time. This is a wealth coach consulting appointment for those with questions and/or assets to protect. John is not a financial advisor and does not give specific investment advice, nor does he sell any investments, insurance, or precious metals. Gain private access to John and his resource network. Schedule your consult today. wealthcoachuniversity.com.